community colleges, the 4 C's in the house. We have AFSCME SWOF joining us today. Let's hear it for them. We have the American Association of University Professors in the house. And we can't have a gathering like this without the UAW in the house, 9A. We have an important group with us today. We have the New Britain Racial Justice Coalition in the house. We have the American Federation of Teachers in the house. We have Reverend Joshua Pollack and the members of the congregation from Manchester Universal Unitarian Church. And we have students, faculty, and staff from UConn, the Connecticut State Universities, and the 12 community colleges of Connecticut. Welcome, everyone. I'm Maureen Chalmers, and I'm the president of the Congress of Connecticut Community Colleges. I'm the MC for this event today. We are here at the corner of Woodland and Asylum because it has a historic importance about why Connecticut is the great state that it is. In the past, it was a place, in the past, the people of Connecticut and our legislator invested in our economy by making sure we were the powerhouse for the country and the world. Connecticut invested in education that created America's publishing capital for the United States. And every book, magazine, and educational textbook was printed in this town. It attracted Mark Twain, who lived down the road this way in the 1880s. And because of the vibrant publishing that we had that created here, it was the natural spot for an insurance companies to come and make it the capital of insurance for the world. You can't hear? I'm going to hold the mic. Okay, so it became a vibrant publishing industry in this area, which became a natural spot for the insurance companies to build and flourish, because you can't have insurance without a printed policy. And we needed a well-educated workforce to manage and grow the insurance resources. And the great insurance companies are behind us on Asylum here. In the present, this is the site for the Board of Regents for the state universities and the community colleges. And through these institutions, the state has invested in the education of the nurses and the medical professionals caring for us during this pandemic. And many of them are at St. Francis to the left over here. And we also educated many of the scientists and employees at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, which has successfully developed a COVID vaccine that will soon be distributed across this country and the world. Our state's economy's future is dependent on what we do as legislators and as citizens now. We should look to the example of the past and what made us a great state. We invested in our education that made jobs possible in our area. We need a people's recovery that invests in critical services like healthcare, housing, K through 12, and higher education. Connecticut has 17 billionaires, that's a B, 17 billionaires worth $66 billion, and they became rich because of the well-educated workforce that we invested in. The billionaires must begin to pay their fair share. Since March, COVID caused regular people to be laid off and face financial devastation, while these 17 billionaires saw an increase to their income by $5 billion. These billionaires and the ultra-rich must step up and pay their fair share to help this state recover and fund all of the critical services that we all need. We are a coalition of labor, community, and faith organizations gathered together to fight for a people's recovery budget. We want to support the millions of people who are struggling during this crisis. We want to invest in the people who make Connecticut run. We want increased funding for public services, good jobs, health care, affordable housing, education, small businesses, and infrastructure. No more cuts or forced austerity. We want to make a tax structure that's truly fair, mandate that millionaires and the wealthy corporations contribute to their fair share, to the financial health of this state. Working people, black, white, and brown, can no longer bear the burden of an unfair tax structure. We want to champion racial and gender justice. This must be a fundamental component. Women, immigrants, and people of color are the backbone of our essential workers and our communities. We must have a courageous focus on righting historic wrongs. So that's why we're all here, and we have several exceptionally important people that we want you to hear from. Is Dr. Christina Barman here?
Yes. Am I first?
Yes, you are. I want to introduce Dr. Bauman. She's a professor of sociology at Central Connecticut State University and the mom of 2 Eastern Connecticut students. Let me just wipe this down for you.
That's okay. I've got hand sanitizer on my person.
I've been told I have to do this.
Oh, okay. That's
Okay, there
good.
you go.
No, it's great. Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. My name is Christina Barman. I'm a professor and a union activist, but I'm also the parent of 2 daughters at a CSU. Like all of you, I know that Connecticut needs a people's recovery. The virus has caused pain and suffering. People have lost jobs. People are shelter and food insecure. Our neighbors are in distress. All of us know that a people's recovery will not come about because of an election, nor will it come from the bureaucrats that staff this building. A people's recovery will only come from our struggle to change our state's tax structure, a struggle to make billionaires and wealthy corporations pay their fair share. Central to any people's recovery is education. We need to fund our K-12 schools, our community colleges, and our state universities. We are all connected. Our students make their way from one system into another. As I just said, I'm the proud parent of 2 students at Eastern Connecticut State University. My daughters have thrived there. They've embraced Eastern, and Eastern has transformed them. They've gotten to know their teachers, and they work closely with their teachers. One daughter has already, as a sophomore, engaged in student-faculty research and presented at an academic conference. That's a remarkable opportunity. Small class sizes, exceptional faculty, personal mentorship, research experience, university assistantships, and job opportunities are the things that set the CSUs apart. It's what make our schools unique and important, and these are the things that transform the lives of our students and positively transform our state. And it is exactly these things that the Board of Regents are trying to eliminate. I want my daughters to grow and thrive. I want all the students of our state to grow and thrive, and that can only happen by investing in Connecticut higher education, not by cutting it. Austerity is not the answer to the crisis. The CSUs are a crucial part of any people's recovery. It's incumbent upon all of us to ensure that, that we all prosper. The students of Connecticut deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Oops, page turn. Our next speaker is Amara Osorio here. Amara Osorio, come on up. Amara is a student at Central Connecticut State University and a member of the New Britain Racial Justice Coalition. There you go.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. How are we doing today? Good. I like to hear it. I like to hear the enthusiasm. CCSU preaches that we're all a big central family. However, CCSU is simply a pawn used by the stingy patriarch that is the Board of Regents. As one of the smaller state schools, CCSU is given little to no mind compared to big money institutions like UConn. This lack of unity and equity between the CT universities has shown that the familial ties that bind us to these universities are as shallow as our budgets. This is blatantly clear in the beginning of the pandemic, with CSCU being unable to create a universal protocol for handling the moving out process. This lack of structure left universities no guidance on how to manage such a stressful situation. CCSU was left to manage the situation and ended up imposing a sudden and chaotic forced move out in March. This left students confused and concerned about what would happen to our personal items. After learning that our belongings were moved by an outside moving company and monitored by the National Guard, I had very little hope that this would go smoothly, and sure enough, thousands of dollars worth of students' personal items went damaged or missing. Now, with the unprecedented removal of UAs and adjunct professors in the coming months, the Board of Regents has shown that they care more about their own salaries than the well-being of their students. Cultural centers, specialized classes, and club organizations are crucial to the student experience. In my own time at CCSU, I have seen the LGBT Center struggle continuously to have a space and staff suitable and comparable to well-funded institutions like UConn. The UAs are integral to running centers like this and working more than 30 hours on planning and organizing events for students to only get paid for their measly 19. Well, for the last 5 years, we have had either no director or one who spends more time in his vacation home than at the center. The less funding we get, the more disorganized and frantic our universities will become to handle the challenges of this pandemic, and the less opportunities students will have from our programs and our courses. And as a member of the New Britain Racial Justice Coalition, funding our education is integral to destroying the racial injustice that exists in higher education. It is important that the Board of Regents recognizes the mistakes that they're making and that they improve them and fix this immediately, because we will not stay silent and we will continue to fight. Thank you very much.
Where did I put the spray? There it is. Next up, we have Professor Shelley McCarthy. Professor McCarthy is an AAUP adjunct faculty at Southern Connecticut State University and a recipient of the Board of Regents Scholarly Excellence Award.
Good afternoon. I'm an adjunct instructor at Southern Connecticut State University. I'm here today to speak about the integral role that adjunct faculty such as myself play in supporting and teaching our students. At Southern, I teach 2 courses a semester, am an academic advisor to incoming freshmen, and am a subcommittee co-chair for the university's accreditation process. In addition to my paid work, I have developed and overseen social justice initiatives and other programs in my department and across my campus. I won both the 2020 Board of Regents System-Wide Award for Adjunct Faculty and the 2018 Outstanding Teacher Award for Part-Time Faculty at SCSU. Work such as I do at Southern is not unique. Part-time faculty are vital to academics, student support, and campus culture at our universities. We engage in significant research and creative activity and campus service in addition to our paid teaching duties. We are not paid for this extra work. We do it to support our students and our universities. Part-time faculty make up nearly 70% of all faculty in the state university system. If our universities were to react to the current budget crisis, as the BOR has suggested, by eliminating part-time faculty, the CSCU system would be gutted, and the consequences to enrollment and retention would be enormous, long-range, and not easily remedied once this budget crisis and COVID have passed. At SCSU, our leadership has chosen to make cuts elsewhere and to sustain their adjunct faculty because they understand our crucial role in shaping and supporting vulnerable student populations such as incoming freshmen. I'm here today because I believe that the BOR should take SCSU's decision to heart and reconsider earlier proposals which demanded that our universities react to the current crisis by extreme and ill-conceived austerity measures, including eliminating 70% of their faculty. As administrators at the system level, the regents are not boots on the ground at the campuses they oversee, and therefore it may be difficult for them to comprehend the full effects, both immediate and long range, that their proposed cuts would have. But the BOR should realize that they cannot tear out the hearts of their universities and still expect to provide equitable and affordable education in the state of Connecticut. Furthermore, the BOR should not lay so much of the burden of our budget crisis on the shoulders of faculty, whose attention is and should be focused on the well-being and education of our students. Thank you.
Next is Representative Phipps here, please. Okay. Okay, I'd like to introduce Representative Quentin Phipps from Middletown. He is the Vice Chair of the Progressive Caucus and a member of the Finance Committee and a member of the Four Cs Adjunct Faculty at the University of Hartford.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Let's go. We know why we're here. The COVID virus has shined a light on many of the inequities that we have been talking about for years and has cast a shadow on many of us, the most vulnerable in our communities. As a new professor, I recognize, once again, the day-to-day struggles of many of us faculty members, but more importantly, our students. Students that each and every one of you fight for every single day. Every late night email, every text, every conversation after class is an opportunity to touch hearts, minds, and souls. And we can't do this work without the proper resources. We've talked about essential work. We've been called heroes, but we haven't seen essential compensation and heroic compensation. That's really what this is about. This is about, once again, helping those that need the help the most. Colleges are more than just preparations for students for their next job. They're the centers and economic engines and cultural engines that broaden hearts, minds, and spirits. And we need that, especially after these last 4 years. We need thinkers and scholars and people that are ready to go and serve their communities each and every day. And I think about the students at Middlesex Community College, pretty much in my backyard in the neighborhood I grew up in. These are our future engineers and nurses and optometrists and radiologists. The jobs that are going to help us recover our economy on day one. But we're doing that without having support for making sure that our students are fed and are healthy and are able to, once again, be able to do their work without struggling. We need significant and structural change to make sure that we can recover in a way that all of us can thrive and all of us can profit, and not just those at the top. We need to make change today.
I'm not sure if he's here right now, but is Representative Haddad here? Okay, here we go. Representative Haddad is the co-chair Representative Haddad is the co-chair of Higher Education Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you. Get my paper open. I was standing out front because I wanted to hear. I was standing out front because I wanted to hear people. Hope that's okay. I get up and get my reading glasses. So, as it just has been mentioned, I'm the chair, the subcommittee chair of the Appropriations Committee on Higher Education. And actually, for the last 4 years, I've had the privilege of leading the Higher Education Committee and fighting along so many of you as we work to ensure that our public colleges and universities have the resources they need to be great places to learn. Now more than ever, we need to commit to this fight. As the Black Lives Matter movement grows across the nation and people all across this country are talking about and thinking about and talking about and acting to address age-old disparities, this is an important thing for us to remember. Recently, I also serve on the New England Board of Higher Education, and recently we issued an analysis that calls out the failures that we are experiencing right now in Connecticut. While 73% of white high school graduates enroll in college right after high school, that number drops to just 54% for black graduates and just 49% for Hispanic graduates. While 56% of white students earn an associate's degree, that number is only 31% for black students and 24% for Hispanics. How do we explain these differences? We can't. How do we narrow the gap? I'll tell you how. We know that quality, accessible, affordable public colleges and universities must be part of the answer. Here are 4 things we can do. 1, we can end the cost shift to students and invest in state public colleges and universities. We know that financial pressures are the #1 reason why students drop out of college or don't even go to college. And that's something that we can fix by investing in our public schools. When I went to college in the 1980s, 50% of the operating budget of our public universities was paid for by the state. That number's now under 25%. We have to do better. Second, we have to demand that any additional funding go to frontline, student-facing services. College advisors, mental health professionals, staff, faculty. Why? Because these are the people that make sure students can graduate on time without paying for additional semesters. Next, we need to restore state funding to scholarship programs. Things like the Roberta Willis Scholarship Program that has been decimated over the last few years. But those dollars are what make sure that low and moderate income families can afford to go to school, and we need to restore that money. And lastly, we need to fully fund the PAC Scholarship Program that promises no out-of-pocket expenses for first-time, full-time students at community colleges. And then we need to expand it to include part-time students and returning students. And then we need to expand it to 4-year, students who go to 4-year institutions as well. This isn't a handout. This is an investment in our future. It's the way that we ensure that our employers in Connecticut have the skilled workforce they need to grow and stay in Connecticut. Last, let me just say one last thing, and that is that none of this will be possible unless we work hard to combat the right-wing narrative that colleges and universities aren't worth it anymore. Like so many other attacks on institutions that lead to a vibrant democracy, this deliberate effort to undermine the reputation and credibility of post-secondary institutions must be turned back. We know that these institutions are of great value to the people who go them, to the state as a whole, And I'm here to stand with you to say we need to invest in them and invest in them now. Thank you.
Next would be Professor Eric Moroney. Professor Moroney is a former K-12 public school teacher, a member of the New Haven Public Advocates, and now is an English professor at Gateway Community College and an AFT member.
Good afternoon. As Maureen said, my name is Eric Moroney, and I come with greetings from the New Haven Public School Advocates. The New Haven Public School Advocates is a grassroots collection of community members, families, and educators who are advocating for the public schools all students deserve. For too long, Connecticut has not prioritized its students nor its public schools. This has meant outdated and inequitable funding models and opening the door wide open to unaccountable private interests. The same obstacles that hamper public K-12 are the very same obstacles that hamper public higher ed. The state millionaires and billionaires are not willing to pay their fair share of taxes, the kinds of taxes that will afford all students access to a world-class education. But their refusal is short-sighted. Their wealth does not simply fall from the sky. It's created, and it's created by us, the Connecticut workforce. And without a robust public infrastructure, of which public education is a cornerstone, there will be no Connecticut workforce, and thus there will be no wealth. Fortunately, the public K-12 community and the public higher ed community have the same vision. One, we think education should be at minimum affordable, if not free. Two, that public schools must be adequately funded pre-K through college. And three, that yes, funding must go directly to student-facing services, which also means that local stakeholders must have local control, including curricular autonomy. From being a public high school student, teacher, long time ago student. From being a public high school teacher for a decade, I know that our students become your students. And so your struggle is our struggle as well. We don't stop advocating for our children simply because they walk across the high school graduation stage. Thank you.
Next, do we have Patricia Bingham here? Patricia is a graduate student at Central Connecticut State University who works in the LGBTQ Center. Safety in mind.
Thank you. Hi, like you said, my name is Pat Bingham. I'm a graduate student, but I'm also the university assistant for the LGBT Center. So one of the positions that Bojakian is trying to cut is my position at my university. I just want to stand here today for all my student workers and all the queer students on campus that are terrified of their accepting adjuncts being fired, for my position being possibly being fired. I'm the only one there 5 days a week. I only get paid for 19. I work over 30. The queer community is extremely important to me on campus. And so when we got this news, we immediately took action, especially hearing that he's trying to retire January 1st. We're going to fight this. We're going to get this way before he retires, because that's absolutely nonsense. Honestly, that's all I have.
That was a powerful message. Thank you, Patricia. Next, I would like to have Jeff Leake come up. Jeff Leake is a K-12 teacher, president of the Connecticut Education Association, and represents thousands of teachers who are heroes in our classrooms in the state of Connecticut.
Thank you. Glad the sun came out, warmed us up just a little bit. Happy about that. But why we're here today, we are here because of the persistent inequities in everything from education to healthcare that have been exposed and exaggerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. These disparities and gaps point to the need to prioritize and invest in a strong education system. As someone just said, pre-K through college. One that provides high-quality opportunities to all students from pre-K through our colleges. These disparities and gaps clearly indicate that Connecticut must do more to support our public schools and invest in higher education. And we must stem the cost shifting to students and families in Connecticut. On a national level, the purchasing power of a Pell Grant is at its lowest in more than 40 years. We know that the education of our youth is a journey where my members serve as guides at the start. They continue as guides for the next decade or so, providing real opportunities for growth and maturity. But that educational journey must not end after 12 years. It is so important that the journey continues with new guides and new opportunities provided by our talented college and university faculty in Connecticut. All of us together, public school teachers and college faculty, support our students as they complete their journey to becoming, productive members of our society and informed and responsible, engaged citizens. Today's students are tomorrow's leaders, and we must invest in them. As always, our future is determined by the decisions we make and the priorities we value and support today. Those values and priorities are evidenced in Connecticut's budget, a budget that must rely on progressive revenue stream that is fair and ensures that all pay their fair share, a share proportionate to the wealth they have received from our economic system. So I'm here to say and emphasize Connecticut's public school teachers join all of us in demanding a well-funded higher education system that prioritizes the needs of students, faculty, and our staff. Thank you so much.
Little technical difficulty there. Okay. Next, we would like to invite to the podium Senator Julie Kushner, former UAW leader and chair of the Labor and Public Employees Committee and vice chair of the Environment Committee. I love your mask.
So you've heard from all of these parents and educators. Sorry. You've heard from parents and educators and students today. And you've heard from union leaders, and you've heard from so many, so well spoken about the importance of higher education. And I just think it's time to talk a little bit about the importance of government. It's important to recognize that we are at a moment where government must step in and must say, we're going to take care of people. We're going to make sure that we invest in the people of our state and of our nation. Now, many of us are hopeful that this will happen on a national level. You know, certainly we are more hopeful than we were a few months ago. But that doesn't mean we don't have to take responsibility right here in Connecticut. This is a moment, like moments in the past, where government stepped in at time of need. Some of the programs that were enacted during the Great Depression are still with us today. They're programs we cherish, like Social Security and the investment in our infrastructure and the investment in education. Well, this is our moment. This is when we need to step up and say that we're going to start these programs, that nothing is impossible, that this is a moment of crisis when we can step up and make things better, not just for right now in this moment, but for the future of our country. So I am very proud to have the opportunity to be one vote amongst many of the people that you've heard from here today that can say, we will prevail. Nothing is impossible. We can make this happen. And out of this crisis, we can do better. And I absolutely believe that everything you're doing by being here today is the first step to making this happen when we go back to session in January. So thank you so much.
Our last speaker for today is Professor Seth Freeman. He is a professor of Computer Information Systems and the Department Chair of Business and Technology at Capital Community College. He's also the VP of the union, the 4 Cs.
Thank you, Maureen. Austerity, no. Public education, yes. Austerity, no. Healthcare, yes. Austerity, no. Pandemic relief, yes. Austerity, no. Public housing, yes. Austerity, no. Job training, yes. Austerity, no. High-paid administrators that waste money, no. Well done, well done. Colleagues and friends, speaker after speaker has come here to this podium to tell a simple story. A story about the wrong priorities in our state, a story about disinvestments in public education and disinvestments in public services. A story about a failed Board of Regents right behind us. A story about a wasteful system that is siphoning money from the community college and university campuses and siphoning money from our colleges and our students. A system that unfortunately neither understands nor values the very faculty and staff who work for them. And a system that's failing our students and failing our state. So we are here to call out the Board of Regents for their failures for a lack of vision. Being unwilling to see that we had to invest in the schools, in our colleges, and in our universities. So today the Board of Regents announced a new interim president, Dr. Jane Gates. Sorry about that. The question we have is, will Dr. Gates double down on the failed priorities and strategies of President Ojekian? I hope that's a no. And the other question we have is, will Governor Lamont and the state leaders stand up and tell the Board of Regents to prioritize funding for our colleges and universities instead of funding for high-paid administrators who do not serve our students directly? The basic question, I guess, is, will Governor Lamont and state leaders sit by and do nothing while the Board of Regents continues to fail our students and fail our state? So, everybody that's come to this podium has said no, a resounding no. We will not fail our students. We will fund our colleges and universities because there is revenue to pay for public services.
there is revenue to pay for public education in K-12. Sorry, the pesky math is trying to sabotage the speech. It's okay. So, big picture, we're here to say that the status quo has failed, and it's time for each of us to demand the state fund the programs and fund the services that people need. It's time for the state to fix long-standing issues of generational poverty and systemic racism. It's time for the state to prioritize our communities that are in need. And it's time for the state to truly work to fix and eliminate the despicable income and wealth gap in Connecticut. So everybody here, we're calling on our state leaders, we're calling on ourselves to be on the right side of this fight. Let's take this message back to our organizations and our communities. Most importantly, let's continue to support each other in this shared fight. The fight for every resident in our state to have quality education, quality health care, and good paying jobs. The fight for unions for workers. And the fight for gender equity and justice, racial equity and justice. Let's stand up. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win.
Just before we conclude today, I wanted to recognize some people who came to listen and to give their support, and they are